Award-winning soundtrack mixer Jake Jackson takes us through his mix of a musical cue from the BBC's long-running crime drama Silent Witness. Although his credits include huge Hollywood films like Cinderella and big computer games and TV shows, Jake often mixes in composers' home studios. We're here in the studio of composer Sheridan Tongue with award-winning engineer Jake Jackson. So Jake, how you doing?
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm well, thanks.
Good. What we're going to be talking about today is going inside an actual score that you've worked on. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the way that you work predominantly with these kinds of scores?
This is something I kind of call Mix It Yours, which is where I come to a composer's home studio. So this is Sheridan's studio, where he has a writing room and a kind of studio room, and he's writing. I'm mixing, and we have shared an exact copy of Logic, the same sessions, same sounds, same plugins, and the idea is that I come mix in their environment, so there's no other budget problems apart from obviously paying for my time, but you don't have to pay for a studio, but you've got, and there's also, it's all in their equipment, so that if they get the call, which they always do the next day, saying we love it but we've edited the picture, or we love it or there's now a voiceover that you've got to move, they can just open up the mix, take out the offending sound or add another sound or whatever it might be, use all the settings that I've left there, and move on. So we are looking at a track here that is from Silent Witness Series 17, which aired in 2014, I think. This is a track that we've chosen because it's got some live violins in it. It's got, but then the rest of it's a lot of other synth sounds and also some a sample piano. And so it'd be nice to integrate those sounds together and get a nice mixture of live and sampled material. I always find if you have something live in a mix, it always gives it that sense of, adds that sense of realism. Even if it's just one or two live instruments, it really helps to make it sound better. So that's what we're going to look at. So what we'll do is we'll see where I'm at, where I finish with it, and then deconstruct it, which is quite a nice way of being able to see how I've done it and why I did it. So what I would do is go through literally each one and see what I've done. So it's a case of listening to the sound and going, okay, what's that one to do? So you can see I've put a bit of movement on that one so that it goes left to right. Because the trouble is, what you might find with a lot of these sample sounds, that they become very mono after a while when you add lots of them together. So sometimes it's nice to have things that move about and give it a little bit of rhythm. So I put that on, and then a bit of top end I put on as well. You'll see a real mixture of the different plugins that I use. Some will be just the bog standard ones if I'm just doing something quick and I need to get through this a lot, and sometimes there'll be more kind of high-end plugins, shall we say. For Sheridan's rig, we use mainly the UAD ones and the Sound Toys, and then probably my favourite plugin in the world, Reverb. I like to put the same reverb on many effects, but I don't necessarily always put the same delay. I want different delays, they're doing different things, so you'll see how that works. So we've got some reverbs. We've got an Reverb here. We've got this Reverb, which is, I have ashamedly will tell you what it is, which is my favourite reverb, Mechanics Hall Worcester, which in the old version of Reverb 6 was Large Hall 1, so there you go, Large Hall 1 carried over, and it just works really well. That it got a longer reverb, a shorter reverb, another short reverb, and then a delay reverb, and then lots of different types of delays here. We've got some Echo Boys going on, some ping pong delays there. We've got a longer delay here, which is really useful for synths to just make them just a paddy sound, just to make them move a little bit. So the next one is more drum kits. Have a listen.
So can we hear that without the sends on it, just so
yes.
you had before?
So I didn't feel at the time this one needed anything more, just a bit of reverb on it. So
it's a lot more ominous.
Yeah, more ominous. I know that this scene is quite ominous, so we'll look at the scene later actually. But there's that, and then so the next one. So what's in here? So This is just a bit of hi-hattery kind of shaker. Just put a bit of top end on this. You can hear it, and that's with it bypassed. Just like to give it just a bit more. I find if you these kind of high-endy things are nice, but they're just a little bit more emphasis. So it works quite well on television, just to cut through the kind of more paddy things, and just to give it a bit more excitement, a bit nice. So the next one quickly. So this is a bit more. This is much more the pulse of the whole thing. Again, so these sounds have been there all the way through, so I'm not going to go to change them too much. I put a filter on this one. That's what I did. So this has just got a little moving filter that's got 8-bar shape that's going, just to make it move and do something different throughout the whole thing, rather than it being the same sound all the way through. It's just ever so slightly tweaking. See, the mix is quite low. You know, a lot of TV stuff does have a beat that goes through it, if it's this style of thing, or it might have a drone that goes through it. And I think if you can just make that change ever so slightly as you go, it just gives it a sense of moving forward, which obviously is needed in TV stuff. We can hear it without the thing as well again. So it's the same thing, but I'm just playing around with the low end a little bit, just so it just makes it just different. Gives a sense of the cue moving on. Tabla sound, and again, so I've here added this EQ just to add a bit more low end and richness to it. Really, I quite like that low end of the. I'm not, as you say, I'm not worried about filtering off the low end here. I'm making it sound as good as it can, and knowing if it's something that's too, letting the dubbing guy roll off the low end if they think it's important for the TV. That's their job. My job is to make the music sound as good as possible and for all systems. So I will do that, and then they can tweak that if they want to. Right, so we've got some timps here. Again, that's doing a little using the building but tremolo just to make it move left to right. Just you could use sometimes it's quite nice to put a ping pong delay on it to make it do that, but this is quite nice doing that. With a bit of the St. Joseph, which is another alto reverb. I often find that if you add 2 reverbs, it really works actually, because it doesn't sound like a reverb, but that one specific reverb, it gives it a sense of not sounding like a hall, if you know what I mean. It does something different that having 2 reverbs done. So that's those sounds, the kind of drummy sounds that's been made, and now we go into the live sounds. Now, so these have been done in this studio or the one next door. So it's a close mic, it's done, and you'll see I've got a bit more stuff on it. So let's have a listen to what this sounds like now. We've got a couple of just different passes, and this is where panning becomes quite important as well. So we can see what I've got on here. There's a little bit of, that's just the pitch there to try and just to make it slightly more in tune. What I like to do with anything that's live is just not to massively squash it. It's just to just take the edges off so that when you're mixing, it's just doing a little bit of work for you. So just taking 2 or 3 dB off maximum. So it's just as it gets loud, it just pulls it in. And if you then are doing rides, you're not doing massive rides. So adding a bit of top end, a bit of high mids, just for a bit of emphasis, actually a bit of richness, and then take out some low end. So let's turn off these things and have a listen to what each of these do. I'll play it with the compressor in. Again, hopefully you'll find there's not actually gain on that, and it's just about how it's just there to just take the top off. So listen. So I'm keeping the gain structure as it was recorded, which is as well. Let's just take a bit off, it's a bit louder. And then the reverb, the EQ, beg your pardon. Come on, computer. Right, oh, right. Here's the. So it's a bit reedier and I like the richness, so I've chosen those particular those things. So it's being a bit laggy because of the screen capture, isn't it? Then we've got some reverb. So I've got the hall reverb, I've got the plate reverb like I discussed, and then a delay on it. So let's hear it with those three on. It's quite a lot of reverb, but at the same time I know that it's quite a lot of reverb, but I know that this will actually work well for what I need. So when it's in there, because kind of the delay is nice because it just gives it that extra bit. Again, you're not really hearing the delay too much. It's there as almost like a reverb, really. It's just to give it some space and width. So I'm actually using this reverb delay here, which is a ping pong delay. So it's just giving it a bit of left and right, which is quite a nice way of just giving it some space, but still letting the main signal come down the middle. But you've got a little bit of left and right. Just interest in the left, just to keep the stereo image nice. This one here, again, panned differently so that we've got that. Again, I kind of keep it as an orchestral would be, so that when you add any samples underneath, you've still got the high stuff on the left and the lower stuff on the right, so that when you add a sample library in, it still fits the same stereo image. It's not fighting what it's trying to do. You've got the high stuff where it is. And then I try and balance out, or particularly with strings, you'll find that, of course, the left-hand side is higher, but then if you add a piano, of course, often the left-hand side is the lower side. So you're kind of just trying to balance out. So you've got high stuff in both speakers and low stuff in both speakers, obviously, and the bass is down the middle. There we go. So let's get back to our violins. This is the fourth violin. And then there's another one down here. They're all using the same plugins. So there's not much riding going on because I've got the little compressor just to flatten it out. And it's providing a bed now, which is really nice. So let's close that up and move on to the next signal. So here we are into the slightly more kind of weird and wonderful sounds in this. This is a synth that I think Sheridan got made by one of his assistants over the years. And an EQ again, just to emphasise. So you see, it's not quite. This gives it a little bit more drive and a bit more. It's just a bit more excitement.
Sort of more body and presence.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a bit of tremolo that way around on this one. That's what I'm doing. So this is quite a kind of ominous thing. Being silent witness, it generates a lot of ominousness. What have we got? We've got a compressor on it again. Again, not doing anything too much. Just taking it down a couple of dB from time to time.
So this is just a synth patch that you're...
Just a synth patch that I'm just putting in. And an EQ on it. When it loads. Here, so I'm taking a little bit of the low end off, just to this time because I don't want it to get too low, and then just emphasise more of the roundness of it, I guess, by putting it there. I tend to know broadly what I'm going for, so I'll listen to sound and go, so I'm emphasising the particular part of the sound that I like and I know is important for that sound in that way it's been put in that thing. So there I wanted a bit more, that last sound I wanted more of the roundness of it, so I went in and just pulled it up like maybe 6 or 7 dB and then just moved it around so I felt it was the right thing. I'll do it on quite a broad cue as well, unless I'm trying to specifically take something out or poke something really through, then I'll do it on quite a wide cue so that you're not hearing it as a massive amount of EQ, you're just hearing it as a broad brushstroke, really. The main part of this piece is the piano, so we can see here. So I've got an EQ in here as well that I've put on EQ. I haven't put a compressor on, but I've put an EQ, so there's quite a bit of top end there. And that's it actually, so for this, without the top end. Just gives it a bit of brightness. It's really high, top 15k. And you can see I've got that's that kind of weird time freezy long delay and 2 reverbs.
So what's the key for you for, taking a MIDI instrument like that and making it sound more realistic or more...
That's a very good question, isn't it, really? I find sometimes a lot of samples lose the top end that you get from a recording space, like the ambience or what it might be, and off just the air of recording. So I like to add some of that back in with EQ, so hence that this top end 15K there. The way of making the sample instruments sound more like real is to try and make sure you're taking out the robotic elements, to try and not to make it too quantized. Try and make sure that there's no obvious jumps in the velocities, and just sculpt it like a human being would play. So that's adding a few rides and that kind of stuff, and just making sure that it's not playing the same round robin over and over again. As it came off the shelf. So obviously quite different. Now I would have received this from the composer not completely dry. This time freeze one is quite important in this, because it's adding a lot of the repeat and that kind of stuff in it. Let's look at what that time freeze is actually.
And it seems to really help the sort of the really low end to sustain.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's find that plugin. Looks like it's doing some sort of like a sample. I guess it's like sampling it and doing that. You can hear what it sounds like. Yeah, it's a long reverb, but with a. We'll see that all these are all 100% wet. So I'm doing everything. All of these sends I'm doing as sends and not inserts. They just work much better doing it that way. It's designed that way. So this is 100% wet, like the reverb, for example. Again, 100% mix, 100% wet. They just, for me, it just sits better, and you're using fewer instances, and it just, for me, it works better. So that's the reason for that. Let's do this. We've got some fake strings here. I say fake in the nicest possible way. Here we go. So I've got some that Todd AO scoring stage, the Worcester Hall, and then a plate. So I've got 3 reverbs going on, and they just help to make it sound like it's not. I just think it makes the reverb sound more natural, because it's not just one convolution. It's an addition of a few different things, which I think makes it sound nicer. Let's hear it dry. Let's hear it with one reverb if you like. I think when you hear the tail, you kind of hear it's a specific reverb. If we add in a couple, just gives it a different space, more unique, but also just a nice feel. If I stop it, you'll hear it's awful. It's for the tails really. You just don't hear the tails. You don't hear one dying away because you're hearing 2 or 3 die away, and it just helps to just make that a smoother tail, I think. There we go. So, bit of low end. So let's see what I did to this one. So this has actually got a delay across it as the top. This is something that Sheridan put in, and I've added the decapitator to just give it a bit more grunge, really, or edge. Not a huge amount, just to give it a bit more cut. But again, I know from talking to Sheridan, this is an important sound at the end that didn't really be changed too much. So one that the producers really liked. So again, I didn't want to change it too much, but I just wanted to add a little something in there. So this kind of synth sound is important because it's adding a voice. Sometimes if there's a lot of dialogue, you can't have a melody that's carrying the voice of the music. So you might have a sound that repeats and becomes the sound of the music in replace of a big melody. Obviously, this has this music has the melodies in the right places, but sometimes you're just there as support for the atmosphere almost. Let's have a look what I did to this one. Again, more. Just again, these things work really nicely with just a bit of reverb and a bit of delay on them to make them just spread out a bit. I'll play it without it, and you can hear the difference. It's quite mono in feel. It doesn't have quite the same breadth about it. So by putting the reverbs on, it gives you automatically gives you that slight sense of size, and it also brings it because I'm using the same reverb I've used before, it's putting it into the same palette.
Yeah.
And then a delay is good because it just makes it a bit more interesting. This is much more of a corrective one. You can see I've gone very, very, very big.
Really cutting out all the low end.
Yeah, cut low and make the top. Yeah. It just helps make it. It gives it the space for the rest of the stuff, but it's still there as the kind of glue for the whole show.
So you've got a lot of low end happening in the piano and in
exactly
parts
yeah,
as well.
and also these kind of the rhythmic thing as well. So I'll try to do it for that. All right. So let's play this down as it was mixed, and then we'll go into some of the finer detail of the rides and things like that, if there are any rides.
Just leave her inside. She'll be fine. She'll be fine.
Important dialogue, so the piano kind of dies out.
Yeah. Do not approach him, I'm on my way. He's parked up outside St Thomas's Hospital.
So there's a subtle shift there in the pace. Again, now this is the moment that the music can come through, so we can make more of the melodies.
John, stop. Where are they, John? Where are they? Where's Ellie and the baby?
I'm sorry.
You're sorry you got caught.
I am sorry for all of it. I did it for Ellie. Just did what I had to.
Ellie? My name's Jack.
So you can see the reasons you often put like the kind of reverbs and things like that, and it's just so when as it shifts between the different sounds and the different moods of the piece, you don't notice it quite so much. It's there. It's very subtly just changing as it moves around. It's the idea being that it's you don't want to draw attention to the music, but also it's there to obviously add the tension and help the pace of the film. And so the reverbs and the delays are there just to so you just don't hear that dramatic shift, but you just feel it in a better way. So here's the automation on the thing. So you can see this. Some of this has got quite a lot of automation. There's a bit of automation on the master track, just around that bit of dialogue here. A few subtle, well, there's nothing subtle there. In fact, these sounds, the violins, because I didn't ride them because I put that little compressor on it, which just did a little bit of work for me, so they didn't get in the way. You can see some of these other things I've done here. So some of these sounds are going in and out. I'm just helping them smooth out a bit. Again here, that.
So this is tension building a lot of the time, isn't
it? A lot of tension building and a lot of just to make them each thing have its moment sometimes, just to make it a bit more interesting, really, to push something through. Like here, this one's quite quiet, but then just have a little moment where it comes through. You can see something quite interesting here. What I've done here is I've actually delayed here. I've put some delay. I've automated the delay here on this sound, which is the piano. Actually, it's the delay on the piano. So you can see that. So it starts off with that and a delay, and then as it gets more tense, it comes through. And this is the ride on the piano. So I've used a fader here. You can see. Yeah. So it's a bit more thing. A lot of the time, I'll just do clicks like this and drag them around, just for speed, just that kind of thing. Look at some of the automation I've done on the piano. This is the delay, so you can hear how the delay kicks in, and the reason I moved the delay around. Again, it's more of a picture thing as well. So, but we'll look at that. And then there's a few rides here around the piano volume. So let's have a quick listen to the piano in solo. The delay is there just to help add the tension, really, and just to make it sound more interesting, because it becomes quite repetitive, and it's just to make it just change subtly, so it's not drawing you away, it's changing subtly, but it's just making a bit of a difference. Getting into the mind of the characters, it's that kind of, it's just there, is it? And now it drops away because of the dialogue, like the volumes drop away now, so it's this important bit of police dialogue, an important part of the story as they try and find the main character. So that's the kind of, it's not a huge amount of automation, it's subtle. If you get the initial balance right, then there is less riding required, I find. So it's more about getting the overall levels right, and then just tweaking it. So there you can see there's a few rides at the end just to make the transition at the end work a bit better. But there's not a huge amount of rides there. We've worked completely backwards, so you can see what I was given with. There's not much on any of these sounds that I put. Just the reverbs and things like that.
Bits and pieces, on.
Yeah. This has got some of these violins haven't got anything on them at all. Because Sheridan knew that I was coming to do this, so he hasn't spent that much time getting it really working. So it's just more about making it work. There's a few reverbs. So this is as it was given to me by Sheridan. So there's a few plugins there and a few reverbs, but it's left knowing what I'm going to do and how I'm going to make it work.
So let's hear it then.
So this is what I do first off, is listen to it all the way through, watch it against the picture, get an idea of what's going on. Obviously I have an idea from the cue sheet. I tend to work where I can on a TV show in the right order, because it makes it much easier to understand the characters and all these kind of things. Obviously in a film, when you're recording, it's different, but if you can mix in show order, it makes it really good, much sense, because you can build those sounds up throughout. So it sounds pretty good, but the piano's a bit samey, so that's why we started to. That's why I've added some of those delays and things like that, and the reverbs. The violins obviously aren't as rich, and I don't sit in the mix as well. This is what I'm listening for when I first go through, so I'm listening through, okay. So the violins aren't sitting particularly well. The piano's a bit proud, and it's a bit repetitive, and it's a bit the same. And there's not much support to the piano. I mean, it's sat there by itself. Jump, that transition didn't work very well, so it's looking at that. You know, the piano is obviously far too loud for the dialogue here. So we're not getting into quite a dramatic pulse at this point as we have in the final mix. You can see, obviously, there's a bit of a time jump here, so I like to make these things just flow slightly better, so you'll be able to hear the difference. So you can see it's in pretty good shape, but it just needs there's an extra polish here and there just to make it really good. That high stuff just stands out a bit too aggressive as well, really. So there we go.
Thanks very much, Jake, for showing us all of this stuff. We hope to see you again soon.
Thanks very much indeed. My pleasure.
Cheers.
Nice one.
If you like this video, why not subscribe to the Sound on Sound YouTube channel for all our latest video content. Also, if you want to read the magazine, you can pick up a copy in your local newsagent. Download the tablet edition or find us online at soundonsound.com. Thanks for watching.